are outpacing any of our revenues. And so we have to figure out ways to bring those expenditures down, employee costs, benefits, and anything else we can do to bring those down. If we can get those in line with what our revenue projection is going to be, then we're going to be in a much better position.
You mentioned the, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Just on your reserve balance, one of the reasons you need to keep it high is it affects your bond rating. You get much below, somewhere between 30 and 25%, and then you have an accident, say a school blows up or roof caves in or whatever it is. You don't have the money in your funds to cover that. You have to go out for bonds. You can't afford the interest on those bonds because you don't have enough money to get a good interest rate. So that's one of the reasons you want to keep a 25% to 30% reserve balance.
Have you looked into, I mean, with insurance going up 10%, have you looked into cutting the benefits that you get?
We are.
Increasing deductibles, things like that?
That's one of the things that's the next item on the list up there. Is
Very good.
We're hoping to get some negotiated savings for salaries and benefits.
What's the average?
Tracy?
I had a question on the reduced art, music, and PE staff. I know the district has had a PE waiver for a while to not offer 5-day-week PE in the elementary schools. Does that impact that at all if we can't keep our waiver?
You're jumping ahead, but
Okay.
yeah. No, this is a reduction of 4 teachers through efficiencies, not reducing the number of art classes, not reducing the number of music classes, not reducing the number of PE classes, but it's using staff. We have probably 4 teachers as a result of the need for them to travel in between buildings and move around this.
What's the percentage of the staff paid for opportunity?
Mike?
The board pays for the single premium subscriber rate and half of the family rate. So the employee, if they're on family coverage, the board pays half that additional step-up rate, and the employee pays half, the board pays the other half.
And that's for all full-time teachers.
Yes?
Program assistants that work, how many hours a day, Jim?
6. 5.
5 hours. They have to work at least 5 hours a day. Bus drivers that work 5 hours a day. Teachers that work less, they have to pay a prorated amount.
So what's?
Wait, did you say all employees pay half?
How much percentage of they have to pay up for health care? In the private industry, it's up to 30%.
Right now, the district is paying for their full individual membership, and then half of their family. And that's the next thing on the list, Vicki. So, yeah, Matt.
I mean, if they get married, they can.
For the capital projects, I know it's part of the budget, for the projections going out, like how confident are we that we understand how much the capital projects are going to cost?
Well, we're fairly confident. That's a different topic, kind of. I mean, it's not. It's a good point. It's a good. No. I mean, this is the first step in the solution. We've allocated in our budget about $2 million for capital improvements to take care of roofs and parking lots and sidewalks and necessary things to keep the building in good shape. We will be coming out shortly with a facilities plan, and I think that facilities plan will show you that that's woefully underfunded. So we're confident of the costs, but we're not confident we'll have the money to take care of it. So that will have to be part of the solution down the road and part of the conversation. Right now, the board has asked us right now to come back with $9.6 million in cuts for next year so they can determine.
That's the current goal.
That's the current goal. The long-term goal is to correct the structural deficit,
right,
and to plan for everything, capital improvements.
So this isn't really an exercise of trying to get it to work for 5 years or something. It's an exercise of what are ways to make it work for next year without deficit spending.
The goal is to, in I think probably 3 years, get to the place where we've corrected the structural deficit. And this is the first step in getting down the road towards that. So the next thing on the list is that we think that there are some potential savings if we negotiate salary and benefits from our bargaining groups. And we've got 2 contracts that are coming up this year that we're negotiating. The Teachers Association contract is up this year, so we'll be negotiating beginning in March. And the custodians, the SEIU, Service Employees International Union, Service International Employees Union, is up this year as well. So we'll be negotiating with them. And we've asked the Teachers Association already if they'd be interested in trying to find ways that we could come up with some savings for our healthcare benefits.
Are these negotiations open to the public?
No. You have a say. You can let the board know that has a negotiating team what your desires are. You have certainly the greatest control when you cast your ballot for who's on the board. But then this board wants to hear what you have to say, and that's I think the best way for you to have input.
Yeah, sorry. It seems like about 80% of this is driven by the union contract. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Marty, right?
Two questions, kind of the point on the healthcare. If the district's paying 100%, just from a magnitude perspective, how much, if the teachers pay 25%, how big a number is that? And then number 2, what would the savings be on the elimination of step and lighting?
100%.
Well, the first one, I think we said that the healthcare costs are $18 million a year. And so teachers are the largest portion of that. So if we save 25%, I don't know, Mike, what do you think? Do you think we'd save?
Well, that $18 million is a net of what the employees are already paying. That's our net cost. So that's the board contribution.
I'm just asking
Yeah.
a simple question. If the district's paying 100% of a
But we're
single
not.
premium.
We're not, that's what I'm saying. That 18% is net of what the employees are already paying. So the 100% amount would be, let's see, then there's retiree benefits in there as well. So the entire cost is about $24 million.
I'm just, I thought I heard
Yeah.
the question, the answer to the one question is that single teacher, district pays 100%.
Right.
My question is, for that single premium, if they pay 25%, I'm just trying to get an order of magnitude what the dollar amount is.
I don't know, because I don't know how many single subscribers we have versus family. I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know. Did I get that? Yes, I don't know what that is.
And then the second question was, with the elimination of step and lane, what's the order of magnitude of dollar savings?
Step is about $1.5 million, lane anywhere from $500,000 to $700,000 a year, so about 2.1, 2.2 step in lane.
Okay, per month, if I was a single teacher, what is the cost? If I had to pay, these are all ifs, if I had to pay the premium, what would I pay on a monthly basis for health insurance coverage as a single person?
I don't have that with me. I could get that, I don't have that with me.
But that's what,
Yeah.
because you're saying, well, it's 100%, but what is it? Because if the premium, just, again, these are all what-ifs. This is not factual data, anybody. If it's $1,000 a month for a single person to be covered, and it turns out that in the private sector, the businesses are only paying $500 a month, then we know as a community, we're paying way too much for health insurance for the teachers, for the district.
And I'm-
That's what people are looking for, is that factual data.
And I'm saying, I can get that to you. All I'm saying, when I do the budget, I know that the board contribution, net of everything, is $18 million. That's what I have in the budget, 18.5 million. I know that. To get the specifics that this gentleman's asking for, we can get that. I just don't have that. I don't have
Okay,
that
so if
currently
it's
with
18
me. I
million,
get
and
that,
how many
yes.
employees are there, and you can
Jake,
divide it by that?
we can't
But
answer the
it's-
question.
that's there's health, dental, vision, life, LTD, there's all kinds of rights involved in it.
That's why we've listed up here that and it is a negotiated topic. We can't unilaterally change these things. We have to go back and talk with these collective bargaining agreements. And that's why we got listed here, is something we're hoping to shoot for.
Can you tell me how much of the budget is the board's contribution to the teacher's retirement?
What's that question? I'm sorry.
The board's portion of the teacher's retirement
About 1.18%.
of their salary.
Right.
They, 1.18%.
Something like that, yeah.
The teachers themselves pay 9.4% of their salary towards the contract. the retirement
You
contribution.
see, that's not information that I'm talking about. My information is that in District 15, 700 and some teachers. The teachers actually pay zero. The board,
It's not accurate.
No.
Comes right out of the
It's in
salary.
the contract, it's online, you can look at it.
if he grows up the teacher's salary, is that number? My interpretation of what I've been reading and research is that the teachers themselves actually
No, we send the check in for them, but it's withdrawn from their salaries. And it's in the contract that it's written that way, that this is their salary, and we will take out and make on their behalf a contribution equaling 9.4% plus our 1%.
I'm sorry to belabor this, but I've read some contracts where the unions have negotiated for the school board to make the contributions where in the first year they'll pay 3%, the next year they pay 4%, the next year 6%. So, and I have a brother who was a teacher. It comes out of his pay, but he is more or less reimbursed for the 9.4% contribution.
increase.
Yeah, that's not the way ours works. I know there are
But some
districts,
do.
some districts operate that way, yes.
I read another contract where there was a player where the teacher could reconcile the lowest on his paycheck with what he was supposed to do in the contract. You know, because he was getting paid 9.4% more than what the contract stipulated because the school board was making this contribution.
And that's how it works.
But not the school.
That's how it works if a contract is written that way. Ours is, the teacher makes $60,000, that's what their gross pay is, and then their net has the 9.4 and other things taken out.
Is there a public availability for the current teachers?
Yeah, it's online, it's posted online. Yeah, if you have difficulty finding it, we'll help you, but it's pretty easy, go to the business office, and it's got the contract there. As our other contracts are listed as well.
I'm sorry, but for sake of not having to have people back here ask the same questions, if they ask questions in the front, could you repeat those before you give the answer?
Yes.
So we know what they're asking. Thank you.
If you didn't hear, the question.
Not at all.
The question was, thank you, I'm sorry. The question was, does the board pay the teacher's contribution to the retirement system on top of their salary? And there was some discussion about, there are some districts that do that. This is your salary, and then we'll contribute 9.4% above that as your contribution to your retirement system. Our contract, which is available online, does not have that. It has salary amounts, and then it says the board, on behalf of the teachers, will make the contribution and subtract it from their salary. Thank you, I appreciate that. Joe?
Scott, I'd like to comment on the contribution that taxpayers make to the teacher's retirement fund. We always forget that on behalf of, made by the state that doesn't show up. I added it up this year, and the taxpayers of this district, including what we pay through our property taxes and what we pay through income taxes, was on the order of $17 million. Okay? We have to remember that. That money is coming from our pocket. It just happens to go to Springfield first, then it goes to the TRS. So what we're paying for retirement, and that's not the teacher's portion, that is taxpayer portion alone. So what we see in the local budget is a little bit, in the number you just threw out there, was a little bit illusionary because there's a lot more goes into it. Now this last year was quite a bit higher than it has been previous years. I think there was kind of like a makeup payment. But that's a pretty large amount that always tends to get overlooked. And it is the taxpayer of this district that is paying that money.
Well, and just to put everything in perspective, every employer is expected to contribute something regardless of what system you're in. And we have people that are in Social Security, and we make contributions to the federal government for their retirement as well.
I know, what I'm saying is, if we say we're only making this $1.8 million contribution, right, that we are actually making a much larger contribution than people think we are, because it's coming out of our income taxes. It's paid a different way. We're not paying it through our property taxes. It's that check we write to Governor Flint, whatever. And then he passes it on to TRS, so people really need to understand that.
Sometimes he
Sometimes.
Sometimes he does.
If you pass it around all the time, you
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
do something.
No, it is. I hate to see that tamped down, because that's real bucks.
From our plan.
The question was,
Right,
what is
so
the
for
average
16, yeah.
revenue increase that we anticipate for the plan? And we have, we've tracked CPI over the course of the last 20 years or so, and the consumer price index is the amount of increase that we get in real estate taxes. And Mike, have we projected for all revenue an increase of 2.4% going out in our projections?
I've got 2.25 to 2.5, except CPI last year was 3%, so I was able to put 3% in there for that levy year. But there's also a lag in the levy year, so CPI for 2011, we won't see until 13-14 school year, so
The
we've got that.
82% of funding that we get from real estate taxes, we've projected about a 2.4% increase. The state and federal, we just have to guess.
But that should be pretty, I mean, that, and if 85% of that is salary, I mean, that should be a pretty simple exercise.
That's what we're hoping to get,
Yeah.
to solve this problem.
What?
Yes.
Can we just whip through the rest of these so we can actually get to
Okay, I will do that, we'll get to some other questions, plenty of time for questions. So we hope that through negotiated salary benefit conversations with bargaining units, we can save money. We have about $200,000 in our budget for activity buses each year. And that $200,000 we think is very beneficial for kids to stay after school, to get help, to participate in programs, as I said, that enhance their overall educational experience. We have many disadvantaged kids that couldn't stay after school and get a ride home if they didn't have activity buses. But we're trying to look at every way to save money, and we can save about $200,000 a year if we eliminate activity buses. The board has set class size targets for the sizes of classes that we should have as averages in the district. In kindergarten, Jim, it's 20. In first through third grade, it's 24. In fourth through sixth, it's 26. And in 7-8, it's 28. So we want to have class average sizes that hit those targets in all of our buildings. If we, in the past when there have been fractions, we've sometimes rounded up and we've given the buildings an extra staff person so that the class sizes were a little lower. If we strictly adhere to class size targets and round down instead of rounding up, we think we can save 13 staff members next year. That will mean an increase in some classes and class sizes, but 13 staff members, and we calculate our least expensive teachers are about $55,000 a year with salary benefits. So 13 teachers times 55 is somewhere around $700,000 in savings. Now, if we took the next step and we increased class size targets kindergarten through sixth grade to 26, and we increased, we kept the 7-8 at 28, we could reduce another 13 staff members, another $700,000. Now, the board has control over class sizes. That's not a contractual issue. So that's a total of 26 staff members we could reduce if we dropped the targets, or we raised the targets to this point. If we took the next more drastic step, and that is if kindergarten through sixth grade to 28, and 7th and 8th graders classes to 30, we'd have a total savings of 49 staff members that we could reduce. And what's the figure, Mike? It's 700,000, and another 1-point-some million. So that's well over $2 million we could save if we.
About 3.2.
3.2, yeah.
Just real quick, what is the total count of FTE staff?
Mike, what do we got, 800?
About right around 800, is it 856?
855.
So you're looking at maximum 7% reduction or something.
Pardon me?
You're looking at maximum 7% reduction in staff.
7% reduction. Doing the numbers I'm talking, so I can't do those things. So we're talking about, he said a 7% reduction if we were to eliminate these 49 staff.
In a typical year, what are the number of teachers that, retire or leave the district?
Well, we know exactly, we know pretty much how many are going to retire because they've already let us know. The majority of teachers pre-warn us that they're going to retire. And so next year we know that 21 teachers are going to retire. So of these 49, 21 of them would be reduced through attrition. Then we'd have to cut 28.
Rather than reducing staff, why don't we just take a general wage cut?
Excellent thought. That is what we've got up here at number 3, is if we can negotiate that. We are contractually obligated to pay the teachers and the other bargaining units what we said we were going to pay them. If we can get together and change those, we're working hard to try to do that.
Can you finish? I was suggested that. Finish the whole list.
Sure.
Thanks.
So then, we get down to the last 3 items, really. Reduce art, music, and PE staff, and Tracy asked that earlier. That would be efficiencies, not eliminating any classes, but it would be saving 4 staff members by not having to pay people to travel from one building to the other and wasting kind of some of their teaching time. The last one is eliminating band and orchestra at the elementary level. We feel like we want to educate the whole child. It's important to give them all components of education. But our elementary band and orchestra program is something that's at our discretion. It's not a contractual issue. We can eliminate that if we chose. That would save us about 7 staff members, which is about $350,000. The last solution that we came up with as a possible solution was just using some of our fund balances that we currently have in place, drawing down that percentage to a smaller number, whether that would be 30% this year, 25%, whatever it would be. Those are the solutions that we kind of brainstormed, come up that are possible solutions. These are dependent, some of them are dependent on how much we can get from our collective bargaining groups, and we're working hard to do that, but those are the solutions, and we're certainly open then to if you had other solutions or other thoughts or comments.
I don't see technology in there. Is that or, I mean, I understand flipping classrooms down to the kindergarten level with the overhead projectors and all that, and that's already been done. I mean, that seemed to have been a significant expenditure on kids that like crayons, as opposed to carrying over there's a power plant. Was that money well spent? I mean, maybe in hindsight, I don't know.
We did reduce the amount of technology that will be purchased to this 5% reduction in equipment. It's not an expensive enough item to be in a capital project. It's just an equipment, and we probably would reduce the technology budget by 10% to get to this 5% for all 3 of those together. Good question. Yes?
With regards to the reduction in the art, music, and PE, I know Schaumburg's district recently cut all the full-time teachers who traveled and replaced them, for example, with a .2 teacher at each building. Is that what's being talked about for this one, or is that a reduction in part-time positions that are part-time right now?
It's the same concept. We have very few .2 FTE positions. They're more than that. They're usually greater than that. But we would only staff in a building the actual number of teachers required to teach those classes. So it's very similar to what Schaumburg did.
2-part question. The first part would be, what suggestions did staff have when they met with you? Because as much as we always say we're a family, we're always kept separate. So what are they saying is a possibility for saving money? And then my second comment, in general, I laughed at the $5,000 for not printing that newsletter, because why wasn't that quit 2 years ago? And why aren't we strictly adhering to class size anyway? I mean, I know my kids, my son has 31 kids in his math class. He's a fifth grader taking 3 algebra. Lord knows they could use some help, but she doesn't have it. Somewhere then, that means there's someone who's got a small class, and in the general population, that shouldn't be happening.
So, the first part of the question is, I think communication has been criticism for many years in the district. People want communication, they want open communication, and that particular instrument was something we thought was good, and people actually appreciated it. I think we found that through electronic communication now, we can maybe continue to do what we needed to do with that paper. So, maybe we should have done it sooner, but it was something that the community wanted before as well. So, Jim.
We actually, until 2 years ago, we had that go out every month. And so then we reduced it to quarterly.
My point
So we did reduce it down, we have sort of gradually reduced it down to the point where.
Well, my point is that's just $5,000. I mean, my gosh, as a family, you would say, okay, we're getting rid of call waiting. It's gone. So what did our cousins, the teachers, suggest?
We met with the executive board of the teachers union at one setting, and then today we had all staff, so teachers, support staff, PAs, all those people came today. And I think that the teachers executive board we're talking about, they have already begun to look at healthcare, and they're looking at, are there ways that we can save some money with healthcare? So they're investigating that. I asked them if they would like to form a committee to work on that together. They said, yes, but give us a little more time to get our informational meeting together. So they're interested in that. I think some of the other teachers are interested in preserving positions. Those positions we talked about cutting, I think they're looking for ways, are there ways that we can retain those positions, retain those programs and those people and still reduce? So they're working on their end of things. We'll have to come together to really come up with a solution.
I believe back in December when we met with you, you indicated that you were budgeting, if that's the right word, a 3% increase in salary and benefits.
Yes.
And that was sort of in your preliminary thinking. And part of that preliminary thinking of 3% increase, is that part of that $3 million deficit that you're looking at cutting up there on the overhead now? Or the $9 million that you went, if we go back to the top, you came up with the $9 million, is that because you factored in a 3% increase to salary and benefits, which again separated or spread the amount of revenue, increasing it from the amount of expenditures?
The answer is yes. We projected a 3% increase. We tried to do some things conservatively. Those will be part of that item number 3, where we try to negotiate more savings than that. We're trying to be realistic, and we didn't want to have project savings that we weren't going to get. So we tried to make very conservative projections as we look out into the future.
But in the same breath, then, isn't it going to be true that if you do provide a 3% increase, you're actually going to possibly put yourself behind the 8 ball and have to take a look at situations where you have to reduce class size, or you have to cut teachers, or other types of, there's going to be a consequence of those decisions.
Remember, they're not decisions. The decisions are that we made in the projections. It's negotiations that we get together and we come up with a negotiated agreement, which takes 2 parties.
That's right.
So it's not a decision we're making, but we have a belief that we want to work towards the best savings possible, but it has to be a negotiated contract.
Is it your recommendation that you will want a 3% increase?
No.
Was that 3% an all-in fee increase? Fee increase step in lane, or is it 3% an increase plus their step in lane?
No, the step in lane on the teachers averages about 3.5, 3.6. Correct, yes.
So the total increase is 6.5%?
No. What we've got in there, I've got step-in lane only going forward, which is about 3.5, 3.6. I've got nothing on the base going forward.
So it's not 3%, it's 3.5, 3.6%.
But the
Right,
retirements
yeah.
come off the top. The retirements come off the top, so you're not really, as a district, spending 3.5, 3.6. Retirements don't come